Hi! Welcome to this part of my review featuring the Goblin Slayer TRPG. If you haven't seen the other parts of my review, featuring this role-playing game based on the popular fantasy series, please check out the playlist in the description below. This time we are going to talk about the round ends step of the combat round. But first, I want to talk about the channel's sponsor, Heroes and Hardships. This is a universal RPG system. The Kickstarter will begin pretty soon, so I'm going to put a few links in the description that will take you to the Kickstarter, to the website, also to the Tetsubo site. This is a setting for Heroes and Hardships. I'm also putting links to my reviews of the Quickstart guide and the Wallace campaign setting. So now that we have the Tetsubo campaign setting and the Wallace campaign setting, you have two different flavors, two different styles of world building. In the case of Wallace, it's an European style of setting, and in the case of Tetsubo, this is Sengoku era Japan. So definitely check that out, please. Now let's continue. When it comes to round ends, once every character participating in combat has ended their turn and there are no characters remaining who can act, handle everything that comes with the round ending. The end of the round is split into 3 steps. So these are sub-steps within the round process. These are effects end, morale check, and attrition track check. When these have all been dealt with, time advances to the next round, starting with determine action order. Rounds will continue in this way until combat ends. Let's talk about effects end. Any and all spell effects, skill effects, special ability effects, item effects, or other effects that are scheduled to end at the end of the round, do so now. When it comes to morale check, at this point, minions perform a morale check. Any minions not led by a boss may run away. The check is made by rolling 2 6-sided dice and adding it to their monster morale stat. If the result of the check is equal to or greater than the target value of 13, that monster remains on the battlefield. However, if the check comes out to be less than the target value of 13, the minions attempt to flee. When a monster attempts to flee, any player character within reach of that monster, that is 5 meters, may simply declare that they are blocking the monster's escape in order to do so. However, a single player character can only have a 100% chance to block one monster from fleeing per round. From the second monster on, a movement obstruction check will be required, which is then compared against the monster's check scores based on monster intelligence. A player character stops the monster from fleeing only if they win the check. Do not forget to add in the bonus from the number of allies in reach for both the monster trying to flee and the player character trying to block them. If the player character does not block a monster's escape, the monster withdraws from the battlefield. The Game Master should decide whether escaped minions should affect the adventure's future developments. For example, they could be meeting up with a boss to set up an ambush in the near future. As a general rule, bosses and minions led by bosses will not flee. For this reason, they will not perform a morale check. However, if the adventure makes it clear that they should flee, or the Game Master would like to make them flee in order to keep the game moving along, they may have such monsters flee as well. Now when it comes to the attrition track check, check one of the boxes in the attrition track, either a box or a spiked bubble. To start, check off the box in the upper left, then move along the path of boxes to the right as you check off more boxes. After the 20th box, you will check off the spiked bubble in the bottom left for the 21st one. You check off a box in the attrition track at the end of every round while in combat. Nothing happens when you check off a regular box, but when you check off a spiked bubble, your character gains 1 point of fatigue. If the character's wound count is equal to or greater than their life force, then your character gains 1 point of fatigue each time you check off a regular box, and 2 each time you check off a spiked bubble. The attrition track is on the adventure sheet, your character sheet, so that each player can keep track of their own. However, the Game Master should make sure to write down how many checks there should be in the attrition track. This way, it'll be easier to manage and harder to make mistakes. Monsters don't have an attrition track. Because of this, they don't accumulate fatigue from checking one off. If a monster does gain fatigue from some other source, they instead take 2 6-sided dice points of damage per point of fatigue. This damage isn't reduced by their armor score. And this concludes this part of the review. In the next part we are going to talk about main action details. In this role-playing game, you truly do not want the combat rounds to linger because as the battle proceeds, the characters in the party will become more and more fatigued, so they will be less effective in combat. Now the monsters do not suffer from fatigue, but to balance things out, they do have to check morale at the end of every combat round, so there is a good chance that they will run away or flee if things are not going in their favor. The bosses are an exception, but I think this reflects the monstrous nature, the outstanding stamina of those powerful enemies. Thank you for watching this part of the review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that have been supporting the channel by sending drive-thru RPG gift certificates. If anyone else wants to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.